Can we still say that we have a 4-year cycle, or is it completely gone?
That's a very good, but also very big question. I think right now the biggest challenge for the entire Web3 world is
Meet Sunny Liu, CEO and co-founder of VeChain, one of the bigger crypto projects in the space solving supply chain issues with blockchain transparency. Being the CEO of VeChain for the last decade, Sunny has experienced everything this market has to offer. Now revolutionizing the fast-growing $25 billion supply chain management industry with advisors like Dana White on board, Sunny and VeChain are a force to be reckoned with.
the bull market finished or
Yeah.
didn't start yet, right?
Like jumping over from a bank into a DeFi protocol is a huge step to take. When would you say VeChain is successful?
Well, firstly,
Sunny, when we look at the current adoption of crypto
mhm.
and we compare that to the dot-com era or growth curve, where are we at this point?
Wow, that's a very good, but also very big question, I would
It
say.
is, yes.
I think we're really in, I would call it the dawn before the sunrise. Let's put it this way. Well, every technology, it kind of develops not in a linear way, for sure, right? You always following the ups and downs, those type of the trends. And crypto world, the Web3 world, has been developing for more than 15 years, starting from Bitcoin, even let's say, and following up a different type of this trends. But let's say, I think right now the biggest challenge for the entire Web3 world is what is the utility? What can do to the real world, right? We're referring Web3 is the third version of web technology. So supposedly it should be at the same level at the internet. And when we think about the internet, we know like we cannot live without internet anymore right now, right? You call Uber, you call deliveries, you gotta use internet for everything, right? So about the Web3, I'm sure Web3 gonna be the same. So where are those applications? Where are those, let's say, um, people can really live on, can really make better life, whatever from the efficient point of view, or let's say more functionalities, more values. So I would say right now the entire Web3 world, it should go into that kind of right direction. Let's say to create the utility, create the value, and eventually let the normal people, not necessarily only the crypto guys, and only not limited to like a speculative trading, making quick money, that type of things. We need to get the value out. And I think right now, especially 2025, is a right year to make that kind of shift turn because of the regulation getting more clarity. The mainstream adoption is right there. And I would say if we look at the entire market, we're kind of acting at the age of, dawn before the sunrise and getting the real juicy, even the sexy products out there. That's what I feel.
I mean, I think you're touching upon the right point there. I'm currently also in the venture capital space, so I see a lot of startups that are looking for capital to basically fund their own project. And there is like a big group of Web2 tech founders coming into Web3 on normal valuations, which is still a
Mhm.
big issue, that are just solving a Web2 problem. And I start to like that we need to reverse engineer, which is we have great tech, but nobody outside of a Web3 echo chamber knows how to use any of those apps.
Mhm.
So can we actually say that we have Web3, or are we just improving Web2 and just making it better?
Well, it's inevitable, I have to say. Eventually, I believe the Web3 is gonna just like Web2 or any internet technology, gonna be accessible, usable by the normal people. It just matters what and when. You mentioned about a very good point is, let's say, the Web2 companies or Web2 founders come to the Web3, try to look for the Web3 gonna solve the challenges, solve the issues. Even I would call it, it's not, how do I say? It's not a revolutionary change so far, but it's necessary steps. Like you said, right now, those considered as like a crypto people and outsiders, all right? And outsiders not really getting what exactly the Web3 can do, what crypto can do, or blockchain technology can do. And we need that kind of process to get more people to join and to explore, to try, even to fail. And then eventually, come up with the great ideas. I agree with you. Solving the current Web2 challenge is not going to be the destination, or not going to be the finishing lines, right? It might. I'm not saying like no good at all. No, there is some incremental improvements for sure, but I'm sure also it's not revolutionary change. So it's kind of like a Google, right? When Google
Hmm.
gets started and giving the free tools, everybody using Google to do the search and making accessing information across the whole world so much more efficient. But what is the model? What is the business model of Google? It comes up years later with massive user, with massive data, and then it comes with a new model of internet, even raising up the flag for the entire internet. So that kind of the process, I would say, for the entire Web3 is going through there. I would say we are kind of leading the way right now and try to continue to explore and eventually focus on. I think that's very important. Despite all of the challenges, all of the process we're gonna take, you gotta have a resolution. Like focus on the utility creation, focus on the value creation. That is a fundamental for the long term running. So that's I would call for actions for all of the builders, whatever you're coming from Web2 or Web3. You know, we
Hmm.
always should look at the long term value creation. That's the only way to push this technology to the next level, to keep the entire industry running for longer time, and eventually reach we call the finishing line or the target.
Well, I think there's no finish line. I think it's just constant improvement.
By milestones.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you look back and we look at crypto over the last years, I think the majority of the people that stepped into the markets were just there for a financial benefit.
Mhm.
They were trying to make more money to combat inflation, combat their own financial, well, let's say, difficulties or anything in that regard. But if we want to onboard more people in order to let them stay, which is the difficult part,
Yes.
what is missing for crypto or Web3 to have that adoption?
Hmm.
Because a lot of people feel very comfortable with their current life.
Yeah.
They don't feel like jumping over from a bank into a DeFi protocol is a huge
Mhm.
step to take,
Mhm.
or from any sort of like application like Facebook and going into a decentralized version. That's also a big step to take.
Mhm.
So, what do we need to actually onboard the next billion users?
Well, I think you made a very good point. You just answered your own questions just now.
Yeah.
You made a good point is, how do we keep the user stay, right? So let's say onboarding or let's say massive adoption requires two steps. One is how are we going to let people know, or how are we going to let people start to use or try? That's basically what the whole world is doing, even including those, the speculation, price actions, going up and downs. Yeah, it draws attention. There is a good part about that. At least it could attract more users to come to the space. Whatever you're building stuff or just making for money, that's fine, right? But all of the builders need to think more. How are we going to onboard the user? And I think the most of the challenge part right now is, even though there are many things already running in the world, but still, how we can make the accessible to the normal people. You don't need to have a technical capability, then
Mm-hmm.
you're able to use application. Like I always tell my product team, you gotta your our target is to make my mom, 70 years old, Chinese lady, doesn't speak English, and are able to use some of the Web3 application, then that's good. Right. So we talk about how we're gonna log in. So we already have a many social login method, but how are we going to integrate with the custodian service to provide the integrated wallet to the user and smooth the login process? That's the number one. Number two is whatever I get from the Web3, whatever is a Web3 application, gaming, even the DeFi protocols, NFTs, how are we going to use that? Or which use case I can use that? Well, obviously, payment is one of very hot topic, trendy options, which also very, let's say, one of the viable applications or viable options for user. How do I use crypto? I use crypto to pay. But more importantly, I would level up a bit. That's what we're doing. We wanted to create the scenario for people to use crypto, not just use crypto to pay for everything. It's good, but which scenario, right? Which use case? So onboarding, including, let's say, I would summarize the three aspects. One, you gotta let people to start very easily, super simple. We call it KISS, right? Keep
Mm-hmm.
it super simple. And then how do you use that? You're also gonna keep it simple. That's the second options in terms of utility of the token. And then third is even the layouts. You should let people not feel like I'm using so-called a crypto wallet. It's more like I'm using the different type of application for doing something. And then keep the crypto or the blockchain running on the backstage. And then the onboarding to the mass adoption, you're gonna be no question at all. So those are onboarding phase. And then more importantly, like you said, the second big part, second pillar is how are we gonna keep the user stay. You know, we talk about just the speculative trading, those things. Yeah, people coming quick and looking for big paycheck and just in a short period of time. That's very typical in crypto world. But after that, what then? How they gonna do? How they gonna keep staying in the crypto world? Or how they gonna keep in staying in whatever the use case or applications? That's even more challenge. But I would say the answer is very simple as well. It's not easy, but very simple. You gotta focus on the product itself. Whatever we think about all of the great companies, Apple, even Tesla now, or even the SpaceX, it's always back to the products. The product generate or create the value, people just like it. The
Mm-hmm.
funny story I want to share with you. I met one of my friend in US. You heard about recently Tesla is not going through a very easy time, right? There are people kind of setting the fires, smash the car and everything. Even one of my friends kind of dislike whatever the way of Elon Musk is doing. So he's saying like, "Oh, I ditched my Tesla." All right, he did that a few months ago, and then now he's like, "Oh, I cannot. I have to go back. The new cars I getting from the other brands just unbearable, like unbearable to use. I'm missing all of the features and the qualities, all of the softwares, auto driving, those stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, what I'm saying is like eventually you gotta let people to really enjoy and cannot even leave the some of the qualities, some of the functionalities of the product itself. So always go back to the product and make people stay there. And that's like fundamentally uh, every builder in the crypto space should work on.
I think this is, again, I'm a startup investor, or at least I pretend to be one and try to be one. We are doing our allocations into projects, but we have a very native Web 2 vision, which is if you have a good product, the marketing and the community will come by itself. It will just market itself. It's not the other way around.
No,
So, like, if your product is shit and it goes live and you keep marketing it, people will test it and go away.
and
So
they will
nothing
leave
is
right away.
sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of inverse way of launching a token has been happening quite a lot, but it's reversing into a good product and then things go live, which is more of
Mm.
the Web 2 way of building an actual company instead
Yeah.
of an altcoin or a project. Uh, and I think that's a good change. But then the next step is that we need to make sure that we can value protocols, because if we can start seeing revenues, or the protocol generates revenues and we can start valuing it, it starts
Mhm.
to become more of a lean approach of investing into protocols.
Yeah.
And at this point, I feel like we are still in a very sort of confusive period of time where a lot of things are happening, but valuations are super weird. And then Trump is doing some weird stuff and we go down again. Down again. How do you, when we talk about that approach and also well, you're in New York at this point, and I think you're also spending a lot of time in the US markets.
Hmm.
We have all been waiting for the US institutionals to jump into the markets.
Hmm.
What do you think the long term impact of the institutions will be to either startup founders or projects in general?
I would say they're started. It's just like well, honestly, one common scenario or phenomena in crypto world is people kind of don't have too much patience, right? They always think like a win or you're gonna 100x next month or next week, something
Yeah.
like that. But actually, if we think about the real utility creation or the real product or even the operation to build, it takes really long time and so much effort, right? So the reflecting to your question, even to those institutions, they actually get started. I have been meeting several different institutions in the crypto world. You can see they starting not now, not even like last year, after the ETF for Bitcoin spot get approved. No, they're actually starting from years ago. But let's say the early days, they're more just like observer. They're observing what the technology evolving and how they can participating or engaging or looking for what kind of the portfolio could be they pony to bet. Let's put it this way, right? As an investor point of view, sure, I can feel. I agree with you. Even the institutions share that kind of the confusion, even a little bit disappointment as well. I remember a couple of months ago, I met him with Mike Novogratz, the founder and
Hmm.
the CEO of Galaxy. He made a public speech. He's saying like, "Don't ask me anything about a meme coin anymore. If we're still talking about a meme coin next 4 or 5 years, there's no future about a crypto world, right?" It says something, means something. So I think right now they're kind of, let's say, starting to explore more than just Bitcoin or even the Ethereum or even the ETF operations. They start to looking for the real fundamentals for the future portfolios, like what kind of problem you want to solve, what's your value proposition, what's your product, what's your growth story, and why I want to betting on you, why I want to invest you. But once they, kind of getting into this zone, that means the serious player are getting into that, right? They're gonna be the very well. We already know the history of the internet. The VCs, the institutions, the funds actually play a very important role. Yeah, they get a big returns for sure, but they also plays a very important role. And then the
Hmm.
crypto is just a little bit different. It's not exactly as a replication of the internet, but you will, let's say, some of the aspects will following the nature of how things should work, and like back into the fundamentals, focus on the products, focus on the growth stories. So especially when I when I talk to those institutions these days in New York, they say when you talk about many things, right? They're getting eyes open for like when I share with them, oh, in terms of VeBetterDOA, we just reached more than 1 million users. They were like, seriously? I want to talk about this, right? So it shows a sign the user growth, the real utility, the impacts, those fundamentals they start to care more. I think it's a very good shift. It's not only just looking for, oh, how much TVO you have or how much liquidity, what's your market cap, how many exchanges you're listed, those type of things. They're
Hmm.
start to pivot to look at the real fundamentals for the value creation. Even they know like it's gonna take time, it take effort, but I think that's the only way for the entire crypto world.
If we talk about segments in general, where do you position stablecoins?
Stablecoin is going to be a very important infrastructure. Actually, as a matter of fact, last week I was in DC. The whole topic was about the first regulation move in United States going to be focused on the stablecoin. Involving like a KYC, money laundering act, those type of things. I think that's it's well. Honestly, I feel a little bit disappointed to the US because MiCAR has been way ahead, right?
Hmm.
With the three different clarity, the different tiers with the clarity. And by the way, VG and the VSO we just get confirmed in the compliance a couple of weeks ago. Um, but the US, you know, after the Trump's administration, that's a good part actually, kind of opened up the door, starting from the stablecoin regulations, considered as a very important infrastructure for whatever the future application going to be or the future ecosystem for the entire crypto world. I think it's the right move, even it's a little bit late, I would say. But yeah, you should start from there is it's good.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the only concern I have is that since the US opened up, all of a
Mhm.
sudden we have, I think I've seen 30 or 40 stablecoins popping up. And there are so many being built at this point, which some of them are also algorithmic. And then I
Mhm.
start to get the red flag vibes. So it's good that they open up, but there is also a concern that there are too many stablecoins and then the next administration kills it down again.
Yeah.
That's always like a slight concern that we have, but at least the
Um,
US is opening up though.
Yeah, I
Go on.
would say I beg a little bit differ here. Is not gonna be killed by administration or regulator per se. I would say it's gonna be evolved
Mm.
by the market. So let's say right now, I would say it's even we think about a stable coin, it's still in terms of the product, in terms of the business model, it's still in a very how do I say a primitive model. Basically, it's acting as a traditional bank, right?
Hmm.
You have a collateral and I issue mint the stable coin. And I think more importantly is what is the use case or what can be used to the people? What kind of the functionality or benefits you can coming up from the stable coin? It feels like it's just like a PayPal, right? When PayPal started, why PayPal gonna start it? Because it solved the some of the challenges or problems or improve the user experience, leveraging the internet technology comparing with what the user could have in the traditional banking or traditional financial system. That's why PayPal started. And the most successful factor for PayPal is to creating many use cases, right? You can pay it online, you can pay it offline, you can, use PayPal for whatever you want to use. And with all of the functionality back to the product itself. So I think for stablecoin, the same. Like, you're right. It kind of opened up. There were 30, 40 new stablecoins coming up. But eventually, how do you track the people to use your stablecoin? Why? Right? So eventually,
Hmm.
you're going to let the market to decide who is the runner. who is the winner, right?
What is if you like a liberal open market doesn't need any regulations or whatever. It's usually making it more narrow. So I'm just considering like what's your opinion on having regulations or just having an open market where the market decides which way we're going to go to?
Well, I on this side, I'm a more I really agree with what Elon Musk, thinks or are doing.
Mhm.
Regulation really slows down the innovations.
Yeah.
However, on the other side, given my experience in the last 12, 13 years in the crypto world, without any regulation, no regulation is definitely dangerous. Is definitely kind of, let's say, we already know many people kind of suffer from those different rug pulls or FTX collapse, those Luna collapse, those type of things. So we do need a regulation, but eventually, what the regulation, let's say, what is the ultimate purpose of the regulation? I think very simple. It could be encourage or motivate the good guys, keep doing the right things, creating the value, and then punish the bad guys to doing bad in the market. Right, simply to say. But over regulation or playing too extreme cautious in terms of regulatory side, it definitely slow down the innovation. So eventually, the $1 million question is how do we find the balance? I think honestly, I really respect what the European this time in the crypto side. Um, MiCAR kind of launched even earlier than US, and with this kind of the European passport model, it kind of really opened up to the good guys or good players in the market. Like, okay, you can serve more clients, you can expand your business in multiple countries. So I kind of looking forward, especially to United States, are doing the similar things. Opened up um, the regulation clarity, but also on the other side, I think that's something I kind of learned in the recently in the U.S. Now the regulator, especially in U.S., kind of open up, saying, okay, whatever the previous administration, Biden administration, Gary Gensler, okay, those are bad guys, right? We get rid of them. Now we're embracing the clarity of the regulation. We want to go for it for the crypto. So what's your product? What's your proposal? What do you want to say? What can I help you on your product on your business expansions? So I think right now the ball's in our hands, in the builder's hands. Like, okay, that's what I built. That's why I need your support in terms of the regulation side, and let's moving together to push the technology for the value creation. And
Hmm.
you cannot show to the regulators like, okay, that's my meme coin, or that's my, you know, uh, whatever could be having a risk or with no meanings. You gotta come up with something like value and a utility. Show to the regulators like, okay, that's that represent the future. That's gonna last longer. That's for long term value, and that's what I need a support from the regulation side, so we can go to the market together. Right.
Well, I think I agree. I mean, at this point, regulation is going to actually improve innovation because it's going to attract so much more new liquidity that's going to be pushed into protocols that are probably building some actual stuff.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it's also going to increase adoption in that exponential curve where a lot of new users are able to use any decentralized apps or we can
Good.
have Bitcoin in our bank accounts, whatever we can do. So that's a good part. But
Yep.
every system starts with simple regulation, and then over the years, it becomes so complex that we need to go back to step one again to
Yeah.
just revoke everything. And I think,
But that's what I told, like, over-regulation kinda slow down the
yeah,
innovation, right? But that's a call it the cycle of life. You say have a it's we gotta go through with that.
that's actually true. And I think MiCAR, I'm positively surprised. In the Netherlands, we have the regulator that had to build up the crypto team basically, and within 1.5 year they speed up the process, and they are very well knowledged.
Mhm.
So I think with MiCAR they are doing some right steps forward, and we're going to talk about it why it's important for VeChain. But what I wanted to ask you first is like, you're in the market since 2013-ish,
Yes.
2012, 2013.
Yeah.
What are like the biggest breakthroughs in your opinion when we talk about crypto in the past 12 years?
There are many. Um,
If you have to pick a few.
yeah, well, for example, when Ethereum started, it's a really breakthrough in terms of technology, right?
Hmm.
Ethereum basically onboarded with EVM, smart contract. Even the smart contract was not invented by Vitalik, by Nick Szabo.
Hmm.
But implementing smart contract with the EVM machine, it kind of opened up the door for so much more possibility or opportunity in terms of the blockchain applications, other than just the ledger system coming from Bitcoin, right?
Hmm.
So that I will call it that's one of the major through in terms of technology. And then if I pick another one, I would say January 2024, the Bitcoin spot ETF approval and going to the market, it's definitely a significant sign. It's in so many different levels. Firstly, I remember very well the first ETF application was actually in 2013. Even not for Bitcoin spot, I think it was for Bitcoin future. But the first Bitcoin future approval is was done 8 years later in 2021. And also following up the 24 spot ETF approval, I would say it really opened up the door for institutions like, okay, it's no more just kids' toy or technical geeks play. And we can, start to put the serious attention or money or funds to this industry or to this technology. Then we see like right now, Bitcoin AUM, ETF AUM is more than $100 billion. Even the Ethereum is about a 6 or 7
Hmm.
$1 billion already. So it shows it opens up the door for the mainstream adoptions, right? I think that could be a very significant sign for the entire crypto world.
I think the ETF, it had such a long history. Well, I think the Winklevoss brothers were the first ones applying for the ETF back in those days.
Mhm.
They were denied, and then they went to court, won the case, and that's when the entire approval started to kick in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's as far as I know about the actual ETF.
But it
Um,
feels like at least it's not no more just a bad stuff. We
mhm,
heard lots of whatever the CEO from JP Morgan or different people in the last 10 years or more than 10 years have been talking bad about the Bitcoin or the blockchain. Right? It's bad names, bad water pooling to those kind of names. But actually, eventually, it's just technology. So I think the Bitcoin ETF is kind of the first time in the history opened up the door. Like, okay, that's a tool, that's a technology. It could be used in a good way. So let's start to put some regulation or start to really look at that. I would say that's why I would call it technical side. I would call it the EVM smart contract. That's breakthrough, and
mhm.
then on the business side, on the regulation side, on the mainstream adoption side, I would say Bitcoin ETF is a milestone.
How is it in the current market to be a long-lasting founder compared to 2017 when you started? Is it more easy to be one?
Not that easy to be honest, but I'm proud. I would say I'm proud. When I like last week in the DC blockchain summit, or even before in any kind of occasions, even these days when I talk to those institutions from the Wall Street, some of the guys say, "Hey, Sonny, finally we're sitting on the table, but actually I was your early investor back to 2017, and good job. Still keep doing." Um, so I feel like very proud about this. We're still here. We'll keep fighting. We never stop, never quit. And actually, the funny thing is, I think the pattern of the crypto, or the let's say with more institutions coming to the space, the pattern kind of gets shifting. Well, in the normal crypto world, let's put it this way, normal or like a previous crypto world, people like to chase after the new coins, not the
Hmm.
old projects, right? They were just, oh, that's a dinosaur project. Forget about that. But actually, we kind of feel the pattern is shifting. When I talk to those institutions, I give an example. I was having a meeting with S&P 500. One of the executives, I asked him the question. I said, "Okay, if you having $100,000 or $500,000, you want to invest any crypto projects, what's your evaluation matrix?" Right? And firstly, he said, "Okay, in terms of category, I'm gonna put something in the Bitcoin for sure, but also I'm looking for any high potential growth portfolios, as like the gold investment, and also I also looking for some Nasdaq portfolios, right?" And then he mentioned about the first uh, fundamental he wants to look at for any portfolio is, oh, I gotta check the record. I gotta check the historical record. Are they strong enough to go through whatever the up and downs, going through all of
Hmm.
the crises in the market? And are they still fighting and keep like be consistent in building, looking at the long term value? Because that's kind of proof you are able to survive and you are able to reach to the final targets or final uh, goals. So I
Hmm.
was really surprising. I was like, okay, that's not the as a crypto pattern, but I like it. I really like it. So I feel like it's tough, but I'm proud of still being here.
Well, it's interesting. Last cycle we had a lot of new coins doing great returns, and the Web3 people kind of live in the past and expect the past to happen again. Where the new coins in the previous cycle basically did better because there was very poor treasury management from the old coins. Like there were so many projects that kept it into ETH. Everyone was in ETH, and then one dumped ETH, and then ETH collapsed entirely.
Mhm.
I remember that there was a live stream from a project. I don't recall the name anymore, but at the actual ETH low, they wanted to short the treasury on ETH. That was so funny. I'm actually gonna look it up and post it again.
Well, I have responding to what you said. Firstly, I know that's the pattern that's happened in reality, right? But I would try to elaborate a bit. That's my personal analysis on the overall market. So basically, crypto has a cycle. We know that, right? From
Hmm.
2000, even before, but 2013 to 17, that's one cycle. 17 to 21, and 21 to 25, that's a third cycle. Recent three cycles we've been talking. But every cycle, let's say, um, we call it beta and alpha changes in the market. So firstly, let's talk about a beta. Beta is more like, linked to the entire growth of the market. That means more people pay attention to the crypto in general, and more people start to put money into that, invest in the crypto in general, whatever Bitcoin or any other altcoins. So basically, every project have that kind of beta rise because of the cycle or because of the growth of the entire crypto market. That's number one. And number two is about the alpha. Alpha is linked to what you do in your project. What
Hmm.
did you deliver in your project? So think about, well, I know VeChain the best, I would say. And in 2017, we kind of reached to the first all-time high, right? And in 2021, we reached the second all-time high, which is three times than the first all-time high. Um, so it's not only linked to the growth of the beta of the entire market or entire crypto industry. It also linked to what we have been delivered, what we doing that part actively in our side. Sure, it takes the risk, but it really depends on also. So eventually, your growth, your real growth, in terms of whatever we call it, the valuation or price of the tokens, it's alpha plus beta.
Hmm.
So if you do wrong, then your alpha could be the negative. You could be even, under the performance, comparing the general market. But if you do good, and you could even higher. However, I would say we cannot. like we cannot just ride along or sleep along with the better actions. Then the whole crypto industry will not going to go anywhere. The growth of the entire market is actually coming from every builder's effort in the alpha side from every project. You could
Hmm.
be wrong, you could be good, you could be, best performers, you could be underperformance, doesn't matter. But without this effort, there is no better growth. So that's my personal analysis or reflections about the market sentiment.
There's like a positive sum on the good projects building together, creating a certain alpha, and the higher that becomes combined, the bigger the beta will be, and then it
Mhm,
just is exponential.
mhm.
That's also why I think that, for instance, Chainlink, Aave, the relatively old Dino coins that continue to last, have built proven tech,
Yeah.
um, are in talks with the big institutions and governments to adopt their technology within their own ecosystems or within
Mhm,
their own systems. And
mhm.
I think we are moving from having a promise in 2021 to delivering a product in 2025.
Of course.
What is, if we, personal note, if we look at the current stage of the markets in terms of valuations and the current uncertainty where gold is going up massively and crypto just keeps on lagging,
Yeah.
can we still say that we have a 4 year cycle, or is it completely gone and we're just in an adoption cycle?
That's a famous argument or debate in the market right now. Is like
Yeah, every day.
the bull market finished, or oh,
Yeah.
it didn't start yet, right? Firstly, I would call it like I prefer the later option. I think the bull market not even started yet.
Hmm.
Uh, let's say Bitcoin sure outperforming than anybody else. I think it's really linked to the changes or the effects coming from the Bitcoin ETF and also the Trump's administration on board. Well, whatever maybe we can question or challenge the details, but generally speaking, Trump is the most crypto friendly president in US ever, right?
Hmm.
He kind of at least opened up the doors for many possibilities. So I think the Bitcoin performance is actually linked to um, spot ETF approval coming with institution money into the space, plus the Trump's administration. Like everyone has that kind of expectation for the bright future of the crypto in general, but starting from the Bitcoin. But the others, I would say, yes, you're right, is a little bit laggy. But actually, even if you consider a 4 year cycle, it's not finished yet.
Hmm.
The last all-time high of Bitcoin, actually, there were two all-time high in 2021. One is April, another one is November. So I would say, even following the crypto cycle, anytime um, between April to November is still fitting this time cycle. Right. April 2021 is actually linked to the Coinbase listing in Nasdaq, and Bitcoin reached
Hmm.
65. And then November 21 is actually linked to the Bitcoin future ETF get approved, and then kind of reached to 69. So even we think about the crypto cycle between April to November, I think we're still in the time zone. That's the first. Second, I feel like the pattern of this time, you know, it's gonna be a bit different. It's not gonna be like a usual play. It's more sophisticated. Like I said, eventually the investment or the let's say the result is actually driven by the investment for now. But why people want to invest you, you know, in the previous crypto cycle is different. Like who is gonna have a bigger mouse, big noise, right? Or having a so-called bigger community. Yes, that was the previous pattern. But now I think it's kind of that's also the reason, in my view, that's the reason why the auto coin market kind of get lagged a bit, is looking for the next trendy or new black. But
Hmm.
eventually, gotta be focused on the utility, gotta be focused on the value creation, or eventually, like you said, back to the deliveries, back to the growth story. How many people are using your products? How many people are getting beneficial by using the products and are willing to stay? And how many Web2 users or non-crypto users are able to onboard to your platform using your product on your daily basis? Those are fundamentals, I would say, the current investors in the market are looking at, right? That's why, Bitcoin is very clear. It's consent. It's no question at all, no doubts. So that's why the money goes to Bitcoin. That's why we see the Bitcoin already outperform, reach to the new all-time high. And then next thing is, okay, what else other than Bitcoin? Like I share with you the personal story. When I talked to the executive of S&P 500 company, like they already have the mentality. I'm not gonna only invest the Bitcoin only. I'm looking the other
Yeah.
portfolios. But what should I look? What are the fundamentals I should look? I need to have. I'm I always saying like we want to not only making the good returns for the investors, but also I want our investor to be proud of like, oh, I invested VeChain before. Those guys are creating a very good value. It's just like when I talk to Tim Draper, he's very proud of investing Tesla. Right. It's not only about the money returns. Sure, he got huge increase in terms of the returns by investing Tesla, like as an angel investor. But also he's very proud of the 7 million cars in the world from Tesla right now on the road and autonomous driving, even the robots. He's very proud of all of the achievements and deliveries, and also the value created for the users, for the whole world. So he even using the first prototype of Tesla to be the reception desk in the San Mateo office of Jupiter. So what I'm saying is like I learned lots of from those guys, and my goal, I think, well, we wanted to make investor not only from financial consideration, but be proud of invest VeChain.
Hmm.
So and then we gotta be focused on the fundamentals. We gotta focus on the utilities, user growth, and eventually everybody was proud of like I'm VeChain user or I'm VeChain investor, something like that.
During these markets, I'm always looking for opportunities to build my portfolio, and OKX is bringing you an opportunity. They are the first fully licensed exchange in Europe with the lowest fees. And to help you a little bit with your portfolio and to celebrate this milestone, they are giving away up to 50 euros in Bitcoin if you sign up today on the exchange. Signing up can be done within 5 minutes, and if you deposit 100 euros worth of crypto, you'll receive the first 20 euros in Bitcoin. Start rebuilding your portfolio today. Go to the link in the description or scan the QR code and enjoy up to 50 euro in Bitcoin. I think the question about the cycle is you could argue whether Bitcoin would have seen an all-time high at this point if we wouldn't have had the actual ETF and Trump. I think the argument would be that we probably wouldn't have seen any all-time high as of yet, which is coming to the conclusion. It's all speculation at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but the conclusion is that there's so much complexity in this cycle that it's almost hard to judge whether we're going to have the 4 year cycle anymore. And there's also a conclusion that if we purely would have had crypto based price movements, we would have been way higher with the pro crypto administration in the US, with the amount of institutions jumping into the markets. But there is also the macroeconomic impact, which is way more important. And that's why people don't want to have risk on appetite at this point.
Yeah, I have to say it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Because the size of the total crypto market is different. Right? When
Hmm.
we let's say think about the 2013 when Bitcoin was like a few $100, well, the top was at $1,000 only, right? I remember when I start to mining, my cost of mine every Bitcoin is about $70 or $75, something like that. So the size are different, and there are not that many portfolios or projects in the market. then even you have, let's say somebody has $1 million or $5 million, you kind of move the market a bit, right? It becomes a big wheel. But today you're saying like, oh, I have a $5 million in crypto. Like, yeah, okay, you're good, but I don't care about right. So we were talking about the every day could have a $500 million flooding into the Bitcoin ETF or Ethereum ETF, something like that.
Hmm.
So the market size is different. Then when market size goes to $1 trillion as a total, then you will be connected or attached or impacted by the normal economic situation. Or if you are not getting impact from the economics, traditional economic situation, you are not here. You will not be here as today's market value, right?
Hmm.
So you cannot say like, oh, when the whole crypto market goes to all-time high in 2021, that's all our own work. That's our crypto guys' work. And
Well, a
then,
lot of people will say that.
yeah, 2025 is saying like, oh, that's because you're bad. Like whatever Trump's administration or Wall Street guys, you're bad. No, actually, it's mixed work,
Hmm.
right?
It's so funny. Like Web3 people think that Web3 is the only thing that exists, but then they realize it's all about everything is interconnected anyways.
Yeah,
Um, well, you've been in the markets for a long time, and you've been with VeChain or VeChain exists for multiple cycles now.
yeah.
But still, through all those cycles, there's such a big, strong community, positive community surrounding VeChain.
Yeah.
How do you keep everyone happy?
I cannot, honestly. I always telling my team and also my friend also like you know everything I post on Twitter or anywhere, I could get half of people say, "Oh, Sonny, you're right," and also
Hmm.
another half of people will say, "Sonny, you're crap." And also it really linked to um, how do I say the fluctuation of the entire crypto market. I call it the price talks. When price are okay, more people will say like you're great. When price not okay, more people will say, "Well, you got to do something." That's in a polite way. But more people, "Oh, you're crap," or you're not doing right things or whatever. Um, but generally speaking, I love VFam. I love VChain community. I would say they're more. Um, Firstly, they're more sophisticated. They're more well educated, and they were more have a rational thinking, and more importantly, last conclusion, I would say there are more people looking at long term value building other than just short term gains. So that's what I really like the VFAM or really be proud of. Um, part of the VFAM as well. And despite all of the challenges, and many challenges are useful or valuable, and I take it in a positive way for sure. I also block some. I have to be very honest. I also block some nonsense, totally nonsense. It's no any constructive feedbacks or constructive suggestion, but just being like purely chewing. Then I block. I feel like okay, there's no value I can learn from your feedbacks. Then I just block. But the general speaking, I I would say that's part of that's also the fundamental elements of the Web3 as a general. The community is as important as foundation as a delivery team, or even more important. For myself,
Hmm.
without community, we're not able to survive until now. We're not able to do so many good stuff with VeBetterDOA, with VeChain Renaissance ongoing, even with the big advisor coming on board. It's a team's work. It's just in a not as traditional format like we have to be in one team, we have to be in a one company, signing up the labor contract. No, it's a new Web3 format, but acting as a big family.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's a big network effect that you require to be able to do all the cool things. That's the beauty of Web3. But how do you, the question on this side, how do you handle like the constant sentiment based driven arguments that come in when As a founder, I might suspect that you have a very positive, strong feeling because there are a lot of fundamental, great aspects taking place, big growth, and you're like, I'm proud. But then you go to see social media to post about this, and the arguments are going to be like, yeah, you shit because price doesn't move, blah, blah, blah. How do you keep your sanity in those periods where there is such a big gap between perhaps your own feelings and the ones on social media?
Well, be tough, I would say.
I get
Be,
that, yeah.
um, well, I that's actually I become a good friend with Dana White. Um, I like the guy. I respect him very much, and he's the kind of the type. I can feel, you know, we have been experienced the similar experiences um, in his journey as well. You know, he kind of turned a $2 million investment to UFC 20 years ago to be a $20 billion business, global, popular sports entertainment with like a billion fans around the world. And he actually shared with me loads of the similar stories in the journey as well. Lots of people are going to talk about it doesn't work, it's not going to be there. And even around the 15 years ago, maybe UK kind of banned the UFC at the time officially. But now, a couple of weeks ago, I was in the Dana's seat, talk about some future collaboration with him in the UFC fight in London. It becomes a regular one of the most important market to UFC, for London. So you see the things how can turn up and how to change that. So I would say for me, it's the same. I've been sometimes I would call myself a very stubborn guy. Uh, I believe that, and I keep doing that. Maybe in the journey or in the middle of the process, not everyone can understand that, but even I believe eventually they will understand that. Because
Hmm.
I'm really looking at the long term value, not just the short term gains. I do keep doing things I believe is right, and I don't want to go with even could be very profitable, but I don't want to. I don't want to jeopardize or compromise my integrity or my code in my
Hmm.
heart. So I keep doing what I believe is right, and I believe those guys will come back saying, "Oh, you're right," but apologize a bit for all of the challenges. I actually, my point would be, don't need to apologize because that's kind of like the feedback or even the motivation keeping me up. So um, it's eventually becomes my source of motivation. I want to show you guys what's gonna be in the long run, and eventually what is the value of that, right? I think most of the let's say entrepreneurs kind of go through that type of things. Even give an example, Jeff Bezos got lots of challenge. Like, oh, Amazon doesn't have a profits. They're running money loss like for 20 years. You shit, right? But actually, eventually, look at how big of the Amazon right now. It's just part of the process.
Hmm.
So for me, yeah, I would say, yeah, tough it up. That's a simple answer, and I keep going.
It's just like there's you either need everyone, and then if you change something that is so revolutionary or so like so far ahead of everyone, then they will say, yeah, it's not gonna work, blah blah blah, and then slowly but surely it's going to turn. But
Yeah.
ultimately, you like I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I've had multiple ventures in crypto, and I just closed them down a few years ago to transition myself. I just learned a lot of things in the years that I was doing or pursuing the previous companies
Mhm.
to learn that I didn't want to do it anymore and to do something else, which generated more value for me
It'll work.
and then
Yeah.
ultimately also for everyone else. But then during the stage of change, and it's still until today, I think not everyone understands the changes or would disagree with all the things that I've done. And I think if I would be an investor, and I am one in a startup, then I would like to see the founder learn, improve, make mistakes, and
Mhm.
continue to grow from there. Because if you are too stubborn and you can't self reflect on all the things that you've done, then there is no progress at all. And
Mm,
you will just stay stuck on one certain level. And
yeah.
I think when it comes to VeChain and your ID, I think your vision never changed,
Mhm.
but the execution did.
Yes, of course. Well,
And
I'm
that's
not I'm not that stubborn.
you're not Dutch. You're not Dutch. That's the difference.
I'm let's say I'm more persistent in the high level or ultimate strategy for VeChain is
Hmm.
I wanted to create or I wanted to, let's say, work for mass adoptions for Web3 technology and creating the value. That never changed. That's what I stubborn on.
Hmm.
Right? But the way to deliver, the way to execute, we gotta try. I mean, there's no Bible here. There's no like a best practice here. You gotta keep exploring and try. And even you find out like, okay, that's not gonna go anywhere, or that's kind of running a little bit slow, or then we gotta shift the gears, right?
Hmm.
So I would say that's a normal way of doing any startups. Even we talk about the Amazon as well, right? Amazon also tried so many different things. They're selling books from the beginning. Now nobody will consider, oh, Amazon is selling books, really, right?
No, that's true. I think you just like develop a skill to constantly improve your own project or company or how you would phrase it yourself. And that's like I wanted to bring up VeBetterDOA.
Mhm,
Like, what did you learn over the past few years to come up with VeBetterDOA?
mhm. Well, firstly, we actually learn a lot from the enterprise adoptions. We have building the different type of enterprise applications in different sectors, especially the famous one like supply chain sectors. And we find a couple of very interesting things and could be the future that's kind of leads to the be better now as idea. Number one, nobody will say no to sustainability. Like that's kind of everyone's mission. If anyone has rational thinking as a conscious, they would like, okay, that's something we gotta do. Number two is in terms of sustainability, the most of let's say missing puzzle is actually individual involvement. In an enterprise, we can feel like the gap between the enterprise and the users or consumers. The enterprise feel like I spend so much money, so much effort every year in terms of ESG or anything, but I don't get appreciated. And then the individuals feel like I don't see the changes, I don't see the results. Only thing I need to know is, every year you release one ESG report. I don't even want to read about it. So that's a gap, right? Eventually, I would say that's perfect for Web3 because Web3 is a super glue or connector to keep everyone working in the new format. You don't need to be like you have to be employee, you have to be a contract or service provider. You can work with enterprise, you can work with anybody you want. But you can be within a smart contract based framework and based on the token incentivization as let's say the financial instrument to be able to do the work or do the build something together because it's not only the enterprise work or government work, it should be everyone's work. But how to connect them together to make effort, that's the fundamental idea how we come up with VeBetterDOA. And now we basically focus on two aspects. One, in terms of it's always about a growth. Okay, that's like our internal OKR. VeBetterDOA is always about a growth. And in terms of growth, number one aspect is more application, simple math, more application, more users, more growth, more value. The second is more users. How are we going to onboard, um, let's say, more users willing to try and use the VeBetterDOA applications, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything else we do is basically serving these top OKRs. We want to get more quality applications. We get more users, not only on board, but also stay in the applications. So the steady growth from the user perspective, for example, one of the application, MiCAR, they just reached to 700,000 weekly active user last week. And we can see the steady growth trends. That's like, okay, that's great. We call it the superstar application. And not officially yet, because my target is that once you reach to 1 million user within one application by week, then I would call you as a superstar application. So yeah, that's basically focus on the products like we just discussed, and driving for the growth. And the growth is our results to share with any investors or share to the communities and according for adoptions.
Mm-hmm. And if we talk about that fundamental change, which basically is the idea behind VeBetterDAO, there's a whole bunch of big events that are happening in 2025.
Yeah.
Of which one, I think the primarily one is VeChain Renaissance.
Hmm. Hmm.
What is it and why is that so important when we talk about the vision and then the actual execution?
Yeah. Well, actually, I have been thinking about the VeChain Renaissance for years. Um, well, it's not only like well, I'm sure you are in the VeChain community. You know all of the tokenomics discussions, all of the upgrades thinking. Actually, I've been thinking about that for many years. But let's say there are two trigger um, leads to the VeChain Renaissance design, and we finished before the end of last year. Number one is we get more and more clarity in terms of the regulation. We knows what the regulators are really caring about. What is those, let's say, rules you have to fulfill, right? And so it's basically even before the end of last year, we kind of finished all of the work in terms of the MiCA. We're just ready for waiting for the confirmation from the regulators starting from last November even, or even maybe October. So basically, regulation requirement is so clear. And also even considering like after November, Trump's winning, you gotta let's say normal prediction for the US is also going to embrace the crypto regulations or coming with a crypto regulation clarity as well. So that's number one aspect. Clarity from the regulation, requirement from regulation is there. Number two is actually we try to solve a really well. I'm an engineer. I always when you try to build something, you gotta or when you find the issues or when you try to figure out some solutions, you gotta like, okay, what do you solve? What kind of the problem you feel like it's necessary you can solve, right? So for VeChain Renaissance, actually, we're solving a fundamental challenge for the current or existing crypto world is about the true decentralization. Okay, call me a technical geeks. I'm been in the crypto world for more than 10 years. Decentralization always sitting in my like acting as a top of my Bible as a crypto guy, right? I think most of the crypto technical guys are like, okay, that's a number one. But you see that the debates in the market is you call Bitcoin is decentralized, yes, but you can see the don't the let's say the miners, mining farms, miner rigs, manufacturers, big pools are kind of you know it's not like decentralized that much, but it kind of concentrated to the smaller people, smaller group of people, right? Or even we think about Ethereum or any POS networks, yeah, eventually it goes to the staking service provider. So it's like you have a condition to be part of the decentralization work. You got to be technical capable. right? You gotta know how to run a node, how to maintain a node, how to do a hard fork, how to do upgrades, those type of things. That's the first challenge. Second is user or any normal people. I don't have a technical capability. I want to give away. I need to give away my token to somebody else, to the staking service provider, and I kind of hope them not rug pull or not get away and eventually pay me back my share. Even you take a haircut, but that's fine. So ironically, it feels like to in order to implement decentralization of blockchain, we have to keep a middleman, which that's what I'm saying a little bit ironic because we know one of the best feature or best application direction of the using the blockchain is get rid of the middleman. So that's a challenge I was thinking, and right now the VeChain Renaissance can perfectly address that. So what we do is it's nobody else done that before. Actually, we have that kind of internal argument. One of my technical engineer was saying like, "Sonny, I disagree with what you're planned because nobody else done that." I said, "No, that's not the reason. That's not the argument I'm looking for." Um, but eventually, we come up with a novel design with NFT to represent the staking amount, and using the NFT of each node, whatever your Econode holder or Xnode holder, you're using the new type of NFT to delegate some validator, and then your staking, we call it effective staking, your effective staking represent by that NFT, not by your token. Token is somewhere else in the smart contract, very secure. And the effective staking represented by your NFT will be calculated in the probability of the blocks. So that means your staking, even you are not technical person, you will be part of the decentralization effort. You will be contributing to the block, to the entire security of the blockchain networks. And even better, your rewards coming from the protocol is not going to go through the validator or go through any middleman. You will directly distribute it through the protocol on every block. So that means every block rewards, a part goes to validator and a part goes to all of the delegators. So if you are technical enough, okay, you run a validator, you stake, 25 million VAV, 50 million VAV, whatever. And then if you are the just normal community people, I don't have that amount of asset, or I don't have, technical capability to run a nodes, what should I do? Okay, I just use my VAT to stake as NFT, and I use the NFT to participating the decentralization of the networks. So it kind of opened up the door. At the lowest level right now, it's only 10,000 VAT, not much. So that means everybody can be part of the decentralization of the VeChain blockchain in the future. So that's actually, well, there are many details, but that's the ultimate goal or ultimate purpose why we want to do VeChain Renaissance, or why what we want to do, or what kind of the problem we want to solve. We wanted
Mhm.
to embrace, we wanted to create a real decentralization with everyone can access, everyone can participate.
Well, that's also why it's called a DAO, right? And ultimately, the key interesting part here is like, why do you need MiCAR? Why do you need a MiCAR license? And if you are the first one doing this through the NFT staking,
Mhm.
how were you able to explain that to the regulators?
Well, it takes effort, but you just gotta keep doing that. Uh, well, why we need a MiCA? I mean, we're not gonna just doing like well, there are two levels. One is on the protocol level, right? That's a VeChain Renaissance. That's what we try to do with assets, with the VET, or those type of tokens. And MiCA will open up the door for us to go to any regulatory providers and eventually to allow more people to participating. So sure, you can go. decentralized way, but that's not our goal. Our goal is for mass adoptions. For even for the protocol level, to embrace this kind of decentralization, again, you don't need a technical capability. You can be part of it. And the regulation just kind of secure what we try to do. We will be able to expand the business or the markets in all of the 27 countries right now under the MiCA framework, and it's still expanding. And also, you're gonna give a very good foundation or base even we go to the other markets, right? We can talk to any regulators like, oh, look, we have done with Europe. We got a MiCA. And what's your process? Let's do it again. Right?
Hmm.
It's not that hard. I mean, eventually it's kind of similar, I would say.
Hmm.
And also in terms of business, also, I mean, like we just discussed before, in the past history, crypto guys or crypto got bad names. And especially the traditional word, traditional enterprise financial institutions, they were like, oh, yeah, the FTX is bad, Luna is bad, so crypto is bad, blockchain is bad, right? So MiCA compliance kind of eliminate the kind of barriers. Oh, we're not bad guys. We're not like Luna or like FTX. We're good guys. We got it confirmed by the MiCA compliance. And let's talk about the business. Let's talk about the collaboration. Let's talk about the future enterprise applications. It would really ease the way, right? Otherwise,
Hmm.
they were like, "Oh, crypto, no, that's not good." Uh, I'm concerning that. I'm afraid of that. But with like that's why I'm saying with Bitcoin Spot ETF approval, with MiCA launch, it really eliminate the barriers.
I think it's an interesting strategy because, like, the NFT staking part is completely new,
Mhm.
but also obtaining a MiCA license for a, well, old-fashioned, we would say, crypto project. I don't think it's actually taking cover of everything that most of the projects, including yourself, are doing. But let's say crypto project, it is different from everyone else. Like most of the protocols are saying, yeah, we don't need MiCA, we don't need MiCA. But in your case, you need enterprises and businesses to step into the ecosystem to spend money through marketing efforts or through sustainability efforts where people can earn the better token through doing sustainable actions.
Mhm.
Like, do you think that you will be able to reach more businesses in Europe through obtaining the MiCA license, and how?
Well, firstly, yes, for sure. That's the goal. That's a
Yeah.
purpose, right? Second, I would say, you know, in high level, I kind of disagree. Like some crypto, well, maybe they have a different agenda or different goals, but let's say I want to. Somebody will say like, "Oh, I don't need the MiCA. I don't need any regulations. Just go totally decentralized." If you're looking for mass adoptions, or if let's say the blockchain or the crypto is gonna to like internet serving anybody in the world, you have to. That's the only
Hmm.
way, only path you can really drive for the mass adoptions because not everyone is sophisticated or technical savvy enough to be able to handle all of the difficult process or even needs to deal with those either the hacking, the scamming, all of the stuff. Even the backup the memory phrase or private keys is kind of hassle for most of the people. It's impossible to most of the people, right? So with that kind of regulation, we were able to going on board the more and more non-crypto users, and you will definitely be a let's say the critical for the mass adoptions. And in terms of talking to the enterprise, we already see the effects. Enterprise were not just like a couple years ago, 3 years ago, saying like, crypto, no, forget about it. Let's do some other things. No, um, even people not really understanding the technology itself, but start to like, oh, okay, let's try to explore what you can bring to me, or what kind of the what any of my challenges or difficulties the Web3 or token can solve that, right? And then It's just like how we gonna get started. It's just so much easier. Otherwise, you gotta spend so much time to convince, and then eventually people don't need to understand the technology itself.
Hmm.
But it's kinda getting an endorsement from all over the regulators around the world, especially in Europe. Like, they know, like, "Oh, that's not a bad stuff, that's a good stuff. Let's talk about the use case. Let's talk about the business orientation," by
Hmm.
using blockchain or the Web3 technologies. So it just opened up the door, but then eventually back to the normal discussion. Okay, what kind of the benefits we can create? And also very important, that's a very, very important, is with the MiCAR, in the future blockchain application, to finally complete the puzzles is to getting the token to be utilized or implemented in any future applications. So I would call it like without token in play, paying the gas fee is just a very small thing. Okay. I would consider like maybe 10% of the blockchain commercial or crypto involvement or token involvement. We need to, I believe in the future, the blockchain application will have token in play directly in users' journey, in use cases, even the future business model for most of the enterprise will involving tokens, um, somehow. Even I don't have a clear answer yet, but somehow. I share one example. Before I left Louis Vuitton, like back to 2014, 13, as the biggest luxury retail group, they were really afraid of like, should we doing a set up the e-commerce, or not? E-commerce is totally new technology to us. Um, Eventually, they made the right decision, and nowadays, e-commerce platform represent more than 25% of the revenue of the entire group, right? So it's just matters of like embracing the technology and to explore the new model.
Hmm.
So I think the same thing for the Web3, for token, for crypto, the future blockchain application, or let's say future enterprise or new business model with enterprise involved will have token in play.
Well, that comes down to Larry Fink saying that everything will be tokenized eventually, and I
Same
think
thing.
that's for efficiency, that's for liquidity, that's for speeding up everything and just adding value for every participant. So that is eventually somewhere in our lifetime where we will be ending up.
Not,
Um,
not too far, man. Not too far. I would say
that
maybe 5 to 10 years we will see that.
well, in 5 to 10 years, AI will take over and we are not necessary anymore, right? So at least if I jump into the latest hype. Anyways, you just announced Dana White as an advisor.
Mhm.
Of course, VeChain has a great relationship with UFC and Power Slap and
Mhm.
everything related to Power Slam, whatever it's called.
Power slap.
Uh, yeah, one of the weirdest things to watch, to be fair, but it's fun. It's a big achievement
Mhm.
to have him on as an advisor. It gives you an open door to Trump's administration,
Yeah.
as he's also an advisor there.
Yeah.
What is his role going to be for VeChain?
Dana going to be, let's say, official advisor. I think he hasn't done anything like that before. But basically, everything starts from, you know, firstly, Dana is not really a crypto guy. He has been very honest to me, like, "Hey, Sonny, I like you. We could be a very good friend, but I don't really understand that shit." That's his style. But the difference is when I show to him what we're building in terms of the applications, like Ethereum, you can charge Tesla, you can log in with Tesla accounts, or mugshot, drinking coffee or clean up the garbage, all of the different type of the real case. He loves that. He really
Hmm.
loves. That's actually exactly reflecting to our discussion. The normal people or non-crypto people, they don't need to understand the crypto or they don't need to understand how blockchain technology works, but they understand the urgency using or how the application can achieve as a result, right?
Hmm.
So he loves what we're doing and he just tell me like, Sonny, I want to go all in. I want to really go all in. I want to support you. What do you need? And I said, then I'm a like we have been meeting like several times already. It's very fun. And I told him like I'm a kind of engineer. I'm not really good at marketing stuff, but you are the best marketer I ever know in the world, right? He kind of turned $2 million into a $20 billion business and have a global expansion. He's a freaking genius in terms of the marketing campaigns and onboard. So simply to say, you know, he has got that kind of unparalleled clout in the world, like hundreds of millions of fans hang on his every word. He got that kind of influential power. So I told her like, then I need your help. Let's I need your like anytime I need to think about how to getting the mass adoptions, how to outreach the fans, whatever the young Gen Z, D-Gens or normal people in the world, whatever from the Twitter or Facebook, I want your advice. I want your, the way to help me. That's the first. Secondly, you like this idea, you like the VeBetterDOA, you like, the whole ecosystem. I want your help to set up, establish the different type of connections and even creating the collaborations using your leverage, using your connections. And for sure, all of the, you know, um, so that's he's like, okay, let's do this then. I can be your advisor, and I definitely wanted to maximize your exposure across in not only the UFC and the Power Slap, even all of the TKO assets, including the PBR, WWE, those kind of traditional events. I want to put you over there all over the place. Number one. Number two is he will start to collaborating with his connections, not necessarily only limited to the business world, but it could be, much more, um, to help us to grow. And as a matter of fact, on the April 9th, he's kind of getting his hands dirty, like doing the plastic collection with us, going with the fullocean.com, on the boat in Miami to really collecting the plastic waste by himself. He kind of blocked the whole freaking 4 hours with us. So my point is, Dana is not just an advisor on paper. He's more like, because I like that. So I wanted to help you in any possible way, to help you to grow, to get more people to be benefits from your products, and eventually drive the real growth. And also on the other side, I have a very interesting discussion with him. I say, well, then I have been a good friends, like 20 years of friends with Trump. And also you're kind of building up the new networks with Elon Musk, David Sachs, those type of guys. So it looks like Trump is not really a sustainable guy, or let's put it way, right? Like more like a petroleum guy or gas guy. Even he said by himself. And even Joe Rogan say, okay, ES is shit, is greenwash, is weaponized. So what do you think? You say, well, that's right. You know, ESG words in some of the cases, words weaponized, words become a greenwash because people don't see the results. People feel like you just use the narrative, try to, be more profitable from many enterprise perspective. But he also told me like, sustainability is a real thing. Climate change is a real thing. And it's just, I don't like the way of doing sustainability before. I like what you're doing. Getting the action more than words, cut the crap, just do, and you get rewards. And that's it. Very simple, very on the ground, you know. Um, so that's why, I think in my view, whatever Trump or Dana White or Joe Rogan, they're not against sustainability itself.
Mm.
They are against the way of doing sustainability before. and we're promoting, we're kind of introducing the new ways, right? And they, at least Dana like that, and he loves, he agrees what we're doing and willing to support. And but anyway, I like the guy very much as a person, as a friend. He's 100% authenticate doer and fighter. He's like, I don't take any crap from anybody. I just do what I do, and eventually slap back to all of your faces, something like that. So
Yeah,
I like him very much.
I've been watching some podcasts with him and some videos, and he is very authentic. You're right about that, yeah. I
Yeah.
think also the point on ESG is that it's not visible what type of actions companies are doing for people, and
Mhm.
it's also not rewarding, which is exactly what you try to
Yeah.
solve. If we look back into the next 5 years and we say, okay, we have been trying it all. We have been going full gas into adoption of our sustainability system and our VeBetterDOA and everything. And you look back over the last 5 years, so it's like 2030.
Mhm.
When would you say VeChain is successful?
Well, it's also could be very simple because also sitting in my VeChain's vision for a long time. We wanted to make VeChain as a one, let's say one platform can support 1 billion users. That's it. A platform to make 1 billion user, beneficial, feel the value, taking the value coming from whatever the applications built on the VeChain. So
That's
that
simple.
means I cannot wait the crypto to grow like a 1 billion people in the crypto only. No, I wanted to move faster. I wanted to reach to non-crypto people for mass adoption. So for me, the mass adoption means 1 billion people are using either VeChain or either application on VeChain.
Hmm. And if we talk about that, um, of course, the VeChain Renaissance is happening, and a lot of things are also planned for the upcoming months.
Mhm.
And there are some attractive rewards for people that are early birds or stepping in relatively soon.
Uh-huh.
Where can we find more information, and what can people do if they want to become more active within the VeChain ecosystem? And if they are not in yet, or if they are and want to do more,
Mhm.
where can we find that?
Sure. I think VeChain.org, that's our official website, and also Twitter accounts, VeChain official Twitter accounts on Twitter, on X.com. Basically, you can find most of the documents. Right now, starting from last year, we're using the article function of X.com to, post the long form contents. Um, and all of the, let's say, returns about the VeChain Renaissance is already kind of uh, like listed on the X.com and also the Medium. And well, we're doing actually more work to getting the information more easy to get for anybody, whatever the existing VFAM or the newcomers. Firstly, there will be a new website under the VeChain.org to you can have all of the information. If you are the investor or the community member, you want to participate in the real decentralization, you will know all of the things you should know, even including the possible returns from the protocols. Second, in the next few months, we're going to launch a series of video contents, like just to simulate. Okay, if you want to run a validator, you're technical enough, then what you should do. Or if you are a delegator, your existing Echo node or X node holder, what you should do. Or if you're a newcomer, new holder, what you should do. Right. So basically, we're gonna have a Renaissance live series to give more contents. Again, also put in the one place, most likely in the VeChain.org, to allow people to go with that. Um, so on top of that, there are also a couple of the tools we're building to as a simulator. I think that's a very important tool. We're collaborating with VeChain Stats and another community projects as well. They're building a simulator to allow the user to run the live simulation, like okay, based on the staking period. Let's say the entire staking is 20 billion VAT now, and I wanted to join. How can I maximize the returns? As a delegator or as a validator? How much I should put into the validator? How many NFTs I could mint? How do I do? That's the tooling we're building. But ultimately, we're also building. Let's say, well, that gonna take a little bit of time. But the in VeBetterDOA there is a mascot. It's called Bimo, the little robot dude. I
Mm-hmm.
really like that. Actually, is not only for VeBetterDOA. We wanted to make it as a real AI agent to support the entire VeChain ecosystem. So basically, you can ask him anything later on. I mean, not now, but that's sitting our roadmap for another 12 months. You can ask him anything. You can ask him like, okay, I have 15,000 VAT. What should I do to gain some the APYs or returns from participating the decentralization? Then he will give you the solution. Or you can say, I mean, the institutions are running, $20 million or $100 million. What should I do, to participating the VeChain Renaissance or participating the decentralization or the VeChain Soul blockchain? Then he will give you the whole solution. It's just one of the design ideas of that. So, in a nutshell, Twitter accounts, VeChain Dog, and also, um, you know, all of the let's say the tools we're building will give more visibility to everyone.
Well, all the links will be in the description beneath, including the Twitter of yourself. I know that you're active on social media too.
Yeah.
You're posting pictures of where you're going to, so that's great as well. Uh, Thank you. Thanks again for being here. Good luck with this year, and also good luck with everything that you try to convince or try to build. I think building a great product for sustainability
Yeah.
where people being rewarded is the key to growth. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
in a few years you will still be around and that we'll be discussing the
Plus,
growth over the years to come. So
yeah.
once again, thank you very much. Good luck over there in New York. And we'll chat soon again, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you, Mike. Always inspiration to talking to you, and hope we gonna meet soon.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.